What's good, YouTube? It's Mirror Books, good back in another video. Konami has been very, very generous to us, and it's now actually possible to potentially do very well at least a regional event, maybe even win the whole event with just $100 in your pocket, and here's exactly how we can do it.
Jackpot!
So yes, as you can see here, this is an iteration of the Fire King deck, of which is dropping in a new structure deck in about a couple days time. And yes, this is very affordable for a decently good deck that's at least tier 2 status in my opinion. And the fact that it pairs very well with the release of the 25th anniversary collection means we can get a lot of staples and hand traps in the game right now for super, super cheap. And just having these 3 structure decks to serve as the core of the deck alongside these cards that can power up your engine is really, really awesome. Now you can obviously, if you don't have a budget, you can play the wanted stuff, you can play the new stuff that's coming out in Phantom Nightmare with the Sinful Spoils, and that obviously does boost the deck a lot higher than it currently is. But I still think for this budget version that we have here with about $100 USD, you can actually have a fully functional deck that can easily win locals, top a regionals, potentially even win a regionals, in my opinion, as long as, you know, you're playing this deck to the best of its ability. So without further ado, let's just really quickly dive in to see what the heck exactly is comprising this deck and how it functions. Again, starting off, you will need 3 Fire King structure decks, so that's about $30. You know, they're $10 each. It's no brainer. They have so many good reprints in that structure deck, so even if you're not a fan of the Fire King engine itself, there are a lot of good staple reprints in there that you definitely want to get your hands on. With the hand trap engine, as you can see, we're playing a lot of hand traps just to supplement the fact that, you know, we don't really have any extraneous engines other than Fire King. 3 Ash Blossom, that lands you at about, I believe, $8 USD. Then the Drolls, these are included in the structure deck, which is crazy. I mean, Drolls finally getting reprinted. Fact Failure, these are about literally like 50 cents each. So let's just say $2 for 3. Nibiru's are like $1 each, so yeah, literally $3 for Nibiru. You cannot go wrong there. Infinite Impermanence also included in the structure deck. Crazy. We're getting Droll and Infinite Impermanent. Really, really awesome. The Fire King stuff is all included in the structure deck, as the name implies. We're leaving Fire King, Avatar, Arvada here at 2. You can have an argument to play 3, but personally, I find like opening multiple of this card is just counterintuitive to what the deck wants to do. You definitely don't want to open multiple copies, ideally. What this deck really, really focuses on right now is summoning out Pawnex, getting the Fire King Sanctuary online, as well as your Fire King Island, popping the Pawnex or another Fire King monster in your hand to add the big chicken Garunix.
It can't be!
Who then special summons itself and then is able to either send Barong to search for follow-up or potentially send the Kirin to resurrect something from the graveyard and also pop a card. One thing that you have to know about this deck currently is the fact that you don't have a lot of interruptions. Our main disruptions against our opponent is obviously the Kirin access, reviving and then popping a card, as well as the Arvada being able to negate a monster effect. And then on top of all that, the resource engine, having the Pawnex come back over and over each standby phase, the Barong to search a card in the standby phase. We have utility cards like Fire King Sacred Immolation, which I believe is called Fire King Skyfire, and then a huge plethora of non-engine that work very, very well in the deck. And then on top of all that, we of course have the Sanctuary of the Fire Kings, which can just go directly into Garunix entity, hang the Fire Kings to serve as a Raigeki to pop your opponent's entire board. So we have basically 3 points of main interaction in the engine right now. That's Arvada to negate monster effects, Kirin to pop, and then the Hyang XYZ to pop as well. Moving forward, we're playing the 3 Pawnex. Of course, this is one of your main starters in the decks. It's absolutely crucial that we do open with this card. We are just playing 2 Sacred Fire King Garunix. Honestly, I don't like this card a lot. I don't think this is the card that you want to draw. This is the type of card that we definitely want to search off of Fire King Island, because on its own, Garunix just doesn't do enough. It doesn't do anything, in fact. So no point really maxing out on the copies. But again, there's an argument to play 1, but I just think having second copy as follow-up later on, because this deck can be very, very grindy, is really important. 1 copy of Barong. This is just your generic turn 1 target that you do send off of the Garunix directly from your deck, and then during your opponent's standby phase, the mandatory effect will trigger, allowing you to add any copy of a Fire King card, either for follow-up or potentially a copy of Kirin for immediately disruption slash just summoning out on your opponent's turn, you know, popping your own cards and then triggering the Garunix so it's live. Then we are playing, yes, the Nadir Servant engine, the Dogmatica Maximus. Dogmatic Maximus, $5. Yes, for some reason this card is now $5. Everyone wants to play it. Nadir Servants, however, have just been reprinted. They're quarters each, so that's literally $1 for 3 copies. And it's very, very effective in this deck especially because Nadir Servant allows you to, number 1, send utility cards like Elder Entity Entis to pop a card, or Garura to draw a card, and then add Maximus so you can send more cards like the Wind Pegasus Ignister to disrupt your opponent. But I can also send a copy copy of Tri-Brigade Shurag, the Ominous Omen. What this means is use a native servant to send Garura to add a copy of Maximus. You summon out Maximus by banishing the Garura, who happens to be a wing beast. Then from there, you activate the effect of Maximus, which allows you to send 2 cards, including the Shurag and potentially something either like a Wind Pegasus, an Entis, or a Farragut to fix your hand if you drew any bricks. And then most importantly, Shurag allows you to trigger because it says when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Wing Beast, or Beast Warrior monster from your deck to your hand whose level is equal or less than the number of your banished Wing Beast or Beast Warrior monsters. So the Garura having been banished by the Dogmatica Maximus is really, really important because then we can then search a level 1 Ponix directly from our deck. So Nadir Servant immediately becomes a Rhoda for Ponix, and then post side we can actually also search for DD Crow, which is equally as important against certain matchups like Tier Limits if you already have the Ponix access, right? So I just think this package is really, really neat. You don't have to play this package if you don't necessarily want to. You could definitely try playing something like a Pot of Extravagance, for example, if you want to focus more on like an anti-meta build with a lot of hand traps and just really, really cycling through your engine. But then I think Pot of Prosperity is really, really nice. We definitely want to dig for engine, and this card just does so much. And now it's only $5 each, so this is only $15 instead of literally paying like $300 for 3 copies.
This is awful.
It's easily a staple across most of the decks in the metagame right now, and I think moving forward until this card actually gets hit, it will be an absolute staple. So there's no brainer, you know, spend 15 bucks on this card. It's a little hefty for more budget players, but I think this is really worth it because you can play it across multiple decks. 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talon. These are only $4 each now because it Surprise got reprinted as well. So that's $8. I think this card is very, very effective. Unfortunately, in this budget build, we are not running Zeus, but if you do have Zeus access, this is definitely something I would definitely throw into the extra deck because with the copy of Triple Tactics Talon, it allows you to overlay directly on top of the XYZ that you steal, whereas currently we're forced to just link off into something like a Hida alongside one of our own fire monsters or just ripping their hand, which isn't the ideal thing to do. Plus, it's not something you can use under Pot of Prosperity to draw 2 cards if you've already activated one or the other, right? So just something to keep note of. If you do have the budget to upgrade, then Zeus might be the next card that you want to look towards. That's around $15 for 1 copy of Zeus, which honestly isn't too bad at all. Fire King Island included in the structure deck, as well as Strength Tree of Fire Kings, 2 of each. It's a good number to have, a good ratio, so you have follow-up, as well as not bricking off of these cards. You definitely don't want to draw 2 of these cards, and they're also searchable off of Ponix anyways. And then 1 Skyfire, because it's just such a generically good card that you can chain to things like Infinite Impermanence, targeting your Ponix to dodge the Impermanence as well as pop cards. Potentially, you could make an argument for running multiple copies. I don't think this is the type of card you definitely want to open with. It's kind of a brick in that sense, but again, you know, in a deck like this where it's very, very grindy, there could be an argument to play multiple copies, so you do have follow-up with Ponix.
I want a glass of water!
Next, let's look at the extra deck. Yes, the extra deck is very, very nice. Entis is about 4 cents, so we're not even gonna count that. Garura's a little bit on the hefty side, $6, but you know, for a card like this, it's also very, very good for Super Poly Target and other decks. I think it's a no-brainer. Definitely pick up this card. It's definitely played in a lot of decks. Wind Pegasus is about 1 cent, so nothing to say there. Grunix included in the structure deck. The Link Removal is about $4, but this is a card that's absolutely important, I think, for the Ponix as well. But there's actually another argument that you can actually play the Almirage in place of Link Removal potentially as well, because being a fire monster is very, very important for going into things like Hida, and it's just a generically good card that you can just go off of by normal summoning anything. So yeah, this is another card you can consider for sure, guys. I would definitely, in fact, I'd probably include it in if we can make room. Relinquish Anima is about $4 as well, but this is just a good card to punish your opponents when they misplay and place their things in front of your extra deck column, so you can just suck it up with the Relinquished. And then, of course, Tri-Brigade Farragut is about 50 cents, so not much to say there. Hida is included in the structure deck. IP Masquerader is about $4. I can't believe these cards are this cheap. But again, guys, these are just absolute staples that are good across multitude of decks. So definitely want to pick these up if you don't have them ready. Sunlight Wolf is about 25 cents. Don't need to count that. The Nightmare Phoenix and Unicorn are about a penny each. So these ones are very, very powerful. Nightmare Phoenix, especially being a fire monster, is relevant for linking climbing into Hida. Selene is decently good, especially if you do have Access Code Talker, which we didn't include because that card is actually around $30 to $40. But Selene being able to revive something like an effect failure from your graveyard allows you to instantly link climb into something like an Appaloosa, or potentially just access code if you already own that. And this card is only about $1 because it got reprinted as well, so really, really cheap. Appaloosa is about $4, but I think this card is a good investment because it is played in a lot of decks, and it's just generically good for effect negation. And of course, the Shurag is about $1. Shurag is just good for searching out your birds, your Ponix, or your DD Crow.
I made it, you guys! I made it!
Side deck, we do have some things that you can kind of tweak with depending on what cards you want to play. Dita Crows are about $2 each, so that's $6. Same with Phantasmes are about $2 each, so that's another $6. But I really like Phantasme and Dita Crow. Dita Crow is generically good against tier elements, good against Purely, it's decent against Unchained. It's good against a variety of matchups. And then Phantasme is also good against a variety of Link decks, even against Rescue Ace and everything that goes into the SP Little Knight. It's just so nice being able to fix your hand and put back bricks that you might not want to see, like Maximus or potentially Garunix. Just one thing to note is that Native Serpent can actually add back from the graveyard as well as your deck. So if you have Maximus in your hand, maybe you can have a way to pop it off of potentially Fire King Island or some way to send it to the graveyard. Banker Tops is cheap, about 25 cents. I did side the copy of Handyman. I don't think it's good enough to play in the main deck because he doesn't actually have a beneficial effect when he's popped. Rather, his only effect is on field to negate spells and trap cards. This could be something that's relevantly good against spell and trap heavy decks. So something like a Sky Striker or Runic Stun might be a good thing to bring this bad boy in. And you'll notice that we're not actually playing Tenki for the reason that I think the card is just not very good. We don't really want to open Arvada. We want to open with the Pawnex plays. Arvada is just a nice to have when we do pair it with the Kirin. But I don't think Tenki is that good. If there is room to play it, I would only play it 1 copies because I don't think that's the type of card you want to open multiple copies. And anytime you open Tenki with an Arvada or a Barong, it just doesn't really do anything. So in my opinion, it's just a very, very mediocre card. And you'll see actually, guys, in the OCG, people have already cut Tenki, just foregoing it for other better cards like Bonfire and, you know, more powerful engine cards instead of Tenki, which isn't really much of a starter. Harpy's Feather Duster is about $2, but this is a no-brainer, just wiping your opponent's back row. Cosmic Cyclones are about quarters each. I think this card is highly effective against a plethora of decks right now. You know, against tier elements, you can hit Celiac. Against Unchained going first, you can hit stuff. Against Purely going first, you can hit the My Friend or the Field Spell. Even in the mirror match, you could potentially hit the Fire King Island, which nukes your entire board. So if you can catch them at an inopportune moment, then Cosmic Cyclone becomes a Raigeki, which can actually be viable at certain times. And then evenly matched, this card is also $1 each. So $3 for 3 evenly matched? Sure, why not? You'll notice that we're not setting any go first cards besides something like a Cosmic Cyclone, but you can definitely tweak your deck and potentially play something like a Solemn Judgment, which was also included in the structure deck for the Fire King. So as you can see, this deck is very, Konami is very generous, let's say, for the structure deck. So if you guys are looking for something fun to play and you're on a budget, this is definitely something I think is a good starting point. So as you guys can see, we are here in TCG Player live with all of the items in the main and the extra deck currently in our card. And our item price total is actually sitting at a healthy $103.97. So we are on the mark for about $100 USD, give or take. Obviously, there is a hefty shifting, but bear in mind that I just put this together really quickly. You can actually save a lot on shipping if you actually do your due diligence and buy multiple items from the same seller, which I did not do because I wanted to put this together as quickly as humanly possible. I just choose the items and I add them to my cart. But if you're buying multiple items off of one seller, usually it's free shipping after a certain amount, or even better yet, off of TCG Player, you can actually go to your local markets or, you know, Frank & Sons if you're in the SoCal area, or just on the Facebook groups, and generally you will be able to get cards at about 80 to 85% on the general market, which is the guidelines for buying cards on the secondary market. So you're going to get an even better deal, potentially even lower than $100, let's say like $80 or $90 for the entire main deck and the extra deck. Now you can see here in the side deck, we have everything added to our cart. It does end in a healthy $15.81, which is really nuts to think about, especially for modern day Yu-Gi-Oh side deck. Of course, this is just recommended cards that I threw together in a couple of minutes, give or take, but you can definitely go through your binder and see what cards might be better for your personal style of playing. You know, if you have a different play style, you can tech your side deck the way you want it to. And of course, again, the shipping you can optimize by buying from one seller. Now, we do have a TCG Player affiliate link for the channel, so if you guys want to support me and the Squiddy channel, you can definitely click on that link below in the description to go to TCG Player, and then anything that you buy, we get a small percentage. I think it's like 3% or something, so it's pretty cool. But other than that, you know, however, guys, you can get this the cheapest way possible to support your budget. If you go on Facebook groups, if you go to, you know, stores to buy, maybe they're cheaper in person, save on the shipping, or if you go to your locals to just trade, these are all some options to get these cards at some good prices in general. And I think around 80 to 85% is what the secondary market is going for again. So if you're able to get it for those prices, you can definitely save a lot on these cards. If you already have a bigger collection and you do have a means to obtain stuff like the Wanted engine, then definitely that's going to make this deck better. But as it currently sits on this screen, I think it's more than good enough to win a locals. And if I took this to a regionals the next day, I think I'm confident I could do fairly well with it and definitely top a regionals, because this is the type of deck where you play a lot of non-engine and the generic core engine is decently strong. You have a lot of attrition, a lot of ground game, and then potentially disruption with the cards that we kind of talked about earlier. So yeah, that's about it for the deck recipe. What do you guys think? I mean, for $100, this is a no-brainer in my opinion. Let us know in the comments below what you think, if there's anything that you would tweak for this deck. Other than that, I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.